Alright, so this is going to be the last video for basic symbolizing. I didn't really like how the other videos are showing up on YouTube, so I'm going to change the orientation and zoom in a little bit more so folks can see what I'm doing. So again, I'm going to go through this rather quickly at this point, just because I need us to grasp this part, be able to do the rest of it a little bit more. So let's start with number 9. So while Miriam is both competent and hardworking, she is not interested in the job. So this one, a little bit vague to begin with, possibly. But just know that we translate while as an and. So we know that Miriam is both, then we have another both and, then we have a not. So while Miriam is competent is a C, Miriam is hardworking is an H, and she is not interested in the job would be J. So in total, this is while Miriam is both competent and hardworking. So it's the case that she is competent and hardworking, and that she is not interested in the job. And then we see something a little bit different for number 10. We have a given that, so this means that this is going to be an if statement, is a bat, and then we have only if, and then we see a then. We have a not. So here we're going to have two conditional statements. We have the first conditional statement of Murphy is a bat only if he can fly. And then we have the bigger conditional statement of given that everything else, then Murphy is not a bat. So Murphy's a bat, can fly, is F, Murphy is a bat, B. Put it all together. So given that Murphy is a bat only if Murphy can fly, then it follows that Murphy is not a bat. Oh, not a bat. Going on to 11, unless gets an or, then we underline pieces. Sally would pass. Sally's mind goes blank. This one's pretty straightforward. P or M. For 12, we have an either or, then we have a but, and we have a not both. So not both means that we're going to be saying that it's not the case that both of those things are true at the same time, but we'll get there in a second. So that's an F, that's an M, and not both. So not both F and M. Put it together. So F or M, and not the case that F and M. So at most, one of them can win. Going on to 13. Stella's being in Arkansas is a sufficient condition. In other words, it is enough for her being in the U.S. So that's an A. And then being in the U.S. is a U. So this one also is straightforward. If Stella's in Arkansas, then she's in the U.S. This also means that we know if Stella is not in the U.S., then it can't be the case that she's in Arkansas. Going on to 14. Roberto's being competent is a necessary and sufficient condition for being hired. If you get something that's both a necessary and sufficient condition, it's a biconditional, it's a double arrow. And then for being hired is H, and then being competent is C. So this is C, double arrow, H. Going on to 15, we have Solomon's growing older is a necessary condition for his becoming wiser, but it is not a sufficient condition. So we have not and then sufficient condition for his becoming wiser. So the best way to approach this one is to see it as two independent claims. So let's start with the first. So Solomon's growing older, O, is a necessary condition for his becoming wiser, W. So we know that if Solomon is becoming wiser, then it must be the case that he's also been growing older. However, but it, O, is not a sufficient condition. It's not enough for his becoming wiser. Put it all together. Solomon's growing older is a necessary condition for his becoming wiser. So if he's grown wiser, then it must be the case that he's older. And it's not the case that being older is enough to make him wiser. Going on to 16. Dan's being in Pennsylvania is a necessary condition for his being in Philadelphia. Pennsylvania is going to be D. Being in Pennsylvania is going to be P. And then a necessary condition means that we're going to switch the order. So Dan's being in Pennsylvania, it's a necessary condition for being in Philadelphia. So you can also see, like, if you see the necessary condition stuff stated first, you should just write that in the consequent and then draw the arrow behind it. That's one approach. Let's go on to these ones. It is always wrong to kill the innocent only if it is wrong to kill an insane person in self-defense. So these are longer statements, but they're still just statements. So the statement, it is always wrong to kill the innocent, is K, and the statement, it is wrong to kill an insane person in self-defense, is S. So you'll notice here that instead of having like the negation of something being okay, we just have the statement itself saying that something already is wrong when we look at how we're translating stuff here. So we also know that we would just write this down as, it is always wrong to kill the innocent only if it is wrong to kill an insane person in self-defense. Going on to 18. It is not the case that, we can also just note a bracket that, because if you see, like, it is not the case that, you know that that thing itself is going to be a statement in and of itself. And then we have an if, and then we have an implied then. So if the Seahawks win, S, then the Cowboys win, C. So if the Seahawks win, then the Cowboys win, and it's not the case that that's true. It is not always wrong to kill, so not always wrong to kill the innocent just in case. It is not wrong, so again, we're seeing the nots, to kill an insane person in self-defense. So just in case is a little bit weird. Just in case is a biconditional. It's also a double arrow. So let's do the rest of it. It is always wrong to kill the innocent is K. And then it is wrong to kill an insane person in self-defense is S. And we know that we have some knots in there as well. So this would translate as, it is not always wrong to kill the innocent person just in case it is not wrong to kill an insane person in self-defense. And then lastly, Plato's being a rational animal is a necessary and sufficient condition, double arrow, for his being human. So Plato's being a rational animal is R, and then being an animal is A, and his being human is H. So over on the left side, what we have is we have an implied and, because we're making two claims about the same being. We're saying that Plato is both rational and Plato is an animal, but we just call that as a rational animal. So this would be translated R and A, biconditional H. In the next video, I'm going to start going through quantified logic, and I will probably do most, if not all, of the quantified logic or predicate logic examples, just because those are a bit harder, and they're the type of thing we will be testing you on.